Okay. School. It is usually thought of as a place where knowledge is gained and retained. Unfortunately, however, within the past decade in the United States, schools have been the sites of multiple deadly mass shootings. Among the most notable include that of Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. The students, however, are not the only ones who experience the trauma. It is the teachers as well. An article from The Guardian entitled, "Parkland Teachers Face an Impossible Decision. Do I Hold the Door Open or Close It?" by Oliver Laughlin and Louise Beckett, published on March 23, 2018, details the following story of a survivor story from a teacher who taught at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School back in 2018. Quote, "With the crack of bullets still ringing around the corridors of Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, Mary Trezino unlocked the door to her classroom to see who else she could save. The 65-year-old mathematics teacher already had 5 students cowering inside her room, and she knew that opening the door was breaking protocol. But I just got a deep feeling inside that I was needed," she said. As she peered into the hallway, she saw 15 students searching desperately for a place to hide, and she quietly ushered them inside. As she closed the door for the second time, she looked all of them in the eye and gave a short speech she still finds difficult to retell. Quote, "I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart. A shooter has to go through me before they get you." End quote. Despite them being the more life experienced adults, teachers are still going to be as scared as their students. Although they can rely on the adrenaline of their nurturing instincts to protect their students from an active shooter, they will still be shaking similarly to the rest of their students. Because of cases like this, there has been discussion on whether or not teachers should be armed in order to protect their students if an active shooter is on campus. But is this the best idea? The arming of teachers in schools is an issue that has been widely considered and debated in our nation since the deadly shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. Today, I will explain to you the problems with school shootings and the issue with arming teachers. Next, some possible solutions replacing the need to arm teachers, and then why it is important to not arm teachers in schools in America, and some action steps you can take in order to support this stance. The first thing you need to be aware of is the problems with efficient security during school shootings in America. For the past 25 to 30 years, we have seen an increase in school shootings. According to David Reedman and Desmond O'Neill's data entitled "Shooting Incidents at K-12 School Shooting Database" of Center for Homeland Defense and Security, the United States went from having 1 active K-12 school shooting to 7 active K-12 school shootings in 2019. In between those years, however, there were 4 years that had higher numbers than 7 active school shootings. There were 8 active K-12 shootings in 2003 and 2006, while there were 9 in 2001. Despite these horrifying numbers, the highest number of active school shootings actually occurred 3 years ago in 2018 with 11. Now I know what you may be thinking. Why is this happening? It is happening due to easy access of automatic weapons, whether if the weapons are already in the home for protection, or the shooter is able to buy a gun for the event of a mass shooting itself, and gives a false reasoning as to why they are purchasing the gun. It is also happening due to people getting bullied at school, wanting revenge on certain people who are at the school, not getting the counseling they need, and then feeling like the world is against them. This was the case for Nicholas Cruz, the shooter that orchestrated the mass shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. According to the BBC article, Florida School Shooting, Nicholas Cruz confessed to the police, posted on February 16, 2018, Cruz had been expelled from the school. He was also known to be an outcast and was, quote, crazy about guns, end quote. According to the math teacher at the school, the teachers have received an email from the school authorities about Cruz's behavioral problems while he attended the school. With an increase in school shootings, it has become clear that there is not enough protection in the schools. Due to this lack of security, the idea of arming teachers and or staff has been raised to have additional security. Florida was a state that looked at this after the Douglas school shooting. According to Lana Minshew's article from the editorial board on arming K-12 teachers, published by the University of North Carolina Press to JSTOR in 2018, Florida tried to pass a legislation called the Guardian Program, which would arm teachers. This program would allow a select few teachers to be trained and armed. The controversy with this subject is that teachers and staff have a job. Although they are responsible for the students and their safety, they are not security. This is not a part of their job description. Also, some teachers have no experience with guns. For example, my best friend from elementary school's mom is a teacher and has no experience whatsoever with guns. Now that you have some knowledge of the problem, there are a few solutions that can be applied to this problem. The main solution is not to arm teachers, but increase school security and active shooter training. States will create laws to increase security and training on campuses. Each district will follow the policies. These policies that need to be created to increase security include the following. 1. Increase security guards and security resource officers, SROs, to the number of students. I am not saying to have a single SRO for each kid, but set them up to a ratio similar to student-to-teacher ratio. Just this time, do an SRO to student ratio. 2. Only SROs will be armed. 3. Cameras will be placed and IDs will be worn. The IDs should be set in place so only the proper people may have access to the school buildings. Even then, it should be noted that the IDs should be changed every year so a student from the previous year cannot access the school. 4. Use only a single controlled entrance for each building. This means that an SRO will be stationed at that entrance to ensure the safety of everyone in the building and make sure no one is coming in the building who does not need to. 5. Implement and regularly test emergency communication. Besides increasing security, schools should have active shooter training for teachers and staff with security. This type of training will happen on professional days while the students are off from school. The teachers and staff will be educated about how to properly act during a school shooting through campus security and the local police department. They will then participate in active shooter drills to apply what they have learned through the lectures given by security and implement them in the field / in their classrooms. Lastly, I will tell you my stance and some action steps for the community. I believe that teachers and staff should not be armed due to several reasons. they should not carry because 1, it is not what they signed up for. They became teachers because they want to bestow knowledge on those who want to learn, not so they could do that while holstering a lethal weapon at their side. 2, it poses too high of a risk for school safety. Even if they were trained to use a weapon, it would not be as efficient as a police officer, and even then, police officers only hit their targets less than half of the time. According to a Brookings.edu article by Michael Hansen entitled, "There are ways to make schools safer and teachers stronger, but they don't involve guns," published on February 27, 2018, professional police officers hit their intended targets less than 20% of the time in training sessions of an active shooter. If this is the case for professionally trained police officers, teachers should certainly not be carrying with only a little bit of training. 3, the money that could be used for arming and training teachers could be spent in more efficient ways, such as putting it towards mental health programs. Even then, schools already lack funding. 4, this might be selfish of me to say, but I do not want to see my mother, who is a school teacher, being put in this type of situation. My mom has been a school teacher for the past 22 years. This was her dream job ever since she was in 4th grade. She never even considered the idea that she might have to possess a firearm in her classroom. Having especially taught in private Catholic elementary schools, this suggestion of having a firearm intended to harm and possibly kill an intruder not only scares her, but also goes against one of the commandments she teaches in her religion class, saying, quote, "Thou shalt not kill." 5, they are not properly trained and should not be trained to handle that type of situation. In an interview with my mother, a 5th grade elementary school teacher, Chrissy Beltran, on March 27, 2021, she said, quote, "If there is an intruder who no one knows, and I pull out the gun, and my hand is shaking, and I accidentally shoot a kid instead of the intruder, I would feel horrible and terrified." End quote. She also stated, quote, "If there is an angry parent who comes in for their child's grades, or for some other reason, and the child jumps in front of the parent, and me as the teacher might end up shooting the kid by accident instead of the parent." Now, if the alternate solutions, as mentioned previously, are adopted, the benefits will be that teachers don't need to worry about their meanest teacher carrying a gun. If these solutions are not adopted, the consequences will be that there will continue to be a lack of security among schools during shootings. To ensure that all voices are heard, here are some action steps for our community to take to support this stance. 1, contact your state legislators to encourage them not to sign a law enabling teachers to arm themselves with firearms during school hours. 2, sign petitions against arming teachers. 3, write a letter to the school board to express your opposition against arming teachers. 4, create or join internet sites against arming teachers. And finally, 5, contact the media on any of these steps so the nation is aware of the steps to stop the arming of teachers. Today, I explained to you the problems with school shootings and the issue with arming teachers, some possible solutions replacing the need to arm teachers, and why it is important to not arm teachers in schools in America and some action steps you can take to support this stance. As previously mentioned, the arming of teachers in schools is an issue that has been widely considered and debated in our country since the deadly shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. Although school shootings are a subject we should not have to deal with in the first place, it is important to acknowledge them and recognize what we can do to try to prevent them. This, however, does not need to involve the arming of teachers. There are plenty of solutions, as previously mentioned, such as using IDs and having more SRO officers around campus that carry out the same task of creating a safe environment for the students and the faculty in a much more efficient manner. If you don't want to take it from me, take it from a person who has been through a school shooting. Parkland survivor Sari Kaufman detailed her opinion on the subject matter in a Sentinel article entitled "Parkland Shooting Survivor: Arming Teachers Won't Make Students Feel Safer" opinion, posted on April 16, 2019, wrote, quote, "Arming teachers doesn't create a safe and healthy learning environment. It just adds another reason for me and my friends to feel anxious about our safety at school." Here are some questions I would like to leave you with to conclude this presentation. 1. Do you think teachers should be armed in schools? Why or why not? 2. What would you do if you were one of those teachers who had a gun during school hours? And finally, 3. How would you feel if your child, sibling, spouse, or other loved one who was a teacher had to be armed with a gun because it was part of their job to protect their students from mass shooters? Thank you. My audience today is Jenna LaCoca.
Hi.